on the west side of Chicago. Big thank you to everybody coming out here tonight. You can see the great crowd behind us. We're going to have features and events all game long, or I should say all night long. We're not at a game here tonight, Wes. We will be soon. Sunday night, that first SHL game of the week will be coming your way. We'll talk more about that as we move along. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We're really excited about what we have for you, this second edition of the High School Hockey Kickoff Show. Last year, we had it right here at the Barn, who's a great partner of the SHL, and we thank them again for hosting us. You know me, you know him. This is Wes Anderson. I'm Max Anderson, back with you for another season of high school hockey here on the SHL Network. We've got Jimmy the Wiz Olsen back as well, spinning all the dials. And today, won't be any replays, but those will come shortly. More technical advancements as well. If you think that you're seeing us because it's clearer, it's not because I or Wes look any better. We have a brand new camera that will be featured throughout the SHL Network season. Big thank yous to go around. We'll talk more about that as we move along as well. Take you through a little bit of what we got going here at the Barn tonight. We're going to kick things off with a bang. We're really going to get it started fast. We've got Ryan Brendel, also known as Barstool Chief, back on the show with us here this year, as he was last year. Joining him, we have Hall of Famer, Blackhawks legend Chris Chelios in the house tonight as part of the show as well. So we're really excited to have him as part of this high school hockey kickoff. Big thank you to him and the Blackhawks for having him here tonight. We're going to have a sit-down with SHL President Evan Polakidis, kind of a state of the league, tell you what's been going on. Some of the changes, a lot's the same, but there's certainly some new things as well. We're going to have ticket giveaways. We have a social media ticket giveaway. I have the winner in my hands. That will be announced about a half hour from now. So if you're a part of that contest online, you will find out those results here in about 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to have a captain's roundtable. We're going to have captains from each of the teams here tonight represented. They're going to talk through everything from their favorite moment in the SHL to
the SHL Network had a big off season. You talk about all the technical advancements, and just like you, I'm excited to get going.
It's already been a action-packed time in the league. Several teams with almost 10 games, I believe, already played in the league. Some teams catching up have only played a couple of games. We've already seen big upsets. We've seen teams that projected to finish 1 or 2 lose to teams that were projected to win 10 or 11. We've already seen incredible parity within the league.
Max, the coin saying is you have to come every night to play in this league, right? Anybody can beat anybody. As you mentioned, York took down New Trier Green earlier this month, just going to show the parity within this league. So as we finally get on the network and we get to see some of these games, I'm excited to see how all that action is going to play out.
You mentioned New Trier. I didn't mention as part of my rundown. I do have it. We also have our sit-down with the state champs. That's right. New Trier gets their own segment. If you don't like it, go out and win a state championship, and then you get your own segment on the High School Hockey Kickoff Show. So that's a challenge to everyone behind me. You want to get featured? Go win yourself a state championship, and you could be sitting up here exclusively with Wes and I next year. We've got all the technical kinks worked out. It sounds great to us. We hope it sounds great to you at home. We're going to take a short time out. When we come back, we're going to have Barstool Chief and Chris Chelios up here with us on the High School Hockey Kickoff Show. Thank you for being with us. When we come back, we'll have that interview. Welcome back to the High School Hockey Kickoff Show, live from the Barn Hockey Bar here on the west side of Chicago, joined by Blackhawks legend Hall of Famer Chris Chelios. We've got Wes, and we've got Barstool Chief joining us as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thanks for being back at the Barn.
So, sorry, Chris. I sabotaged you there.
It was working.
I sabotage you. We got you
we
now.
go.
Test.
There we go.
Okay.
Now we're on. We got Chris
Thanks
Shelley.
for
listening.
having me.
Didn't mean to
guys.
fake you out there.
Say that bit about the barn again.
I feel like I'm getting punked here. But anyway, let's go.
Fix ourselves a little bit there.
Well, I want to start with you, Chris. You know, we here at the SHL Network have really embraced what high school hockey can mean to the community, to the city of Chicago. Obviously, you played for Mount Carmel, and you ended up playing in the NHL for 2 decades, more than 2 decades, right? What was high school hockey like for you coming out of the South Side of Chicago?
Well, hindsight is 2020, but it meant the world to me. It gave me time to develop competitive hockey, playing in the Catholic League for Mount Carmel. Obviously, I didn't know it at the time, but especially for U.S. kids, a lot of them I was a late bloomer physically. It gives you time to develop. And when I played, it was competitive hockey as it is now, as high school hockey. And it's realistically, if you can't afford to play AAA hockey, which, as we all know, hockey is a very expensive sport, you know, these schools provide, you know, the programs, and it enables you to at least realistically be, you know, shoot for a college scholarship. That was my goal at the time, and that's still what I would tell every kid in high school. Yeah, I mean, I'm living proof. There's no question anything can happen.
Chief, you played prep hockey growing up. You went out east to play prep hockey. You look at people like Chris Shelley who played their high school team, environments like this. I know you've been out to some games. Would that have been something you may have considered differently back in the day?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I lived out in the western suburbs, and St. Charles, just that area was not as strong as Chicago. I think had I lived downtown, I would have considered that. So I did the AAA thing for the chill before going out to Berkshire Prep in Massachusetts. And I mean, that's high school hockey too. And I loved high school hockey, and you know, there's just something you can't replicate with AAA, where it's the student section, and we had this thing where you would score, and it was an old barn. They would bang on the heating vents when you would score, and the place would explode, 2,000 people, and you just can't. There's nothing like school spirit. And like wearing your jersey or your warm-ups at school on game days, it's special, and I hope everybody that's still playing here appreciates it, because it goes by quickly.
To that point, Chris, is there a moment that you remember similarly?
Well, that was the other element you just mentioned. Like two of my kids played AAA, 2 of them played for high school, but the 2 that played for high school, there was something to be said for, you know, you play those weekend games and you show up to school Monday, and you know, that camaraderie you have with the students. It was amazing. So for me, playing at Mount Carmel, I was fortunate enough to win the Kennedy Cup in the Catholic League Championship my second year. And to share that with the school, like any other championship, it's something pretty special. So that would be the biggest difference between playing, you know, AAA or you know, youth hockey as opposed to high school. So, and I could honestly tell you, a lot more exciting when I played for Carmel than when I played for St. Jude or the Saints
And more pride.
Yeah.
Got to think some of those Kennedy Cup atmospheres too prepared you for your professional career, where you played in the likes of Montreal and Detroit too.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, a championship's a championship. So I was fortunate enough that, you know, I was able to experience that with Mount Carmel. And after that, I kind of expected to win, because we were the underdogs to Rice that year, Brother Rice. And it just, for some reason, whether I got to juniors or when I turned to NHL and pro, even though we weren't favored to win, you know, I just had this mentality of, well, it happened in high school. It could happen here, and it did. I won my second year in Montreal. I won the Stanley Cup with a team that really wasn't supposed to win.
Yeah, who are the Flames compared to Brother Rice?
Flames?
Yeah, is that who you beat in '86?
Some north side team. I don't want to get into that right now, but yeah, we had a little problem with the north side. We were just jealous of south side. We had a little chip on our shoulder, but no. Again, I played 1 year up north. You know, once I graduated, or not graduated, I left Chicago my junior year of high school. But back then, it was very lucky that you could play AAA and play high school. And it's too bad they can't do that and stagger the schedules, because it would just make high school even that much more competitive.
Yeah, I wish they would do that too. So when prep school, they have that. So you have to play a sport every season. So I played football, hockey, and baseball. Some of the hockey guys played for like the Boston Junior Bruins or something like that. So they had like a fall AAA season, and then everybody around Thanksgiving is when the hockey season ramped up. And that to me was like the perfect balance of, I love playing all three. So I love every sport. I love to play everything. So I went the football route, and I feel like there's I don't know, it should be revisited where you can stagger it a little bit.
So on that point, it's one of the things I want to ask you. You know, when we spoke last year at this event, you know, you spent the last year, I know, as you said, you followed the SHL, you've seen what we're up to. The way I've seen, obviously, is the expansion of Fifth Third is going to be meaningful for youth hockey in Chicago. Obviously, the resources that the Blackhawks are putting into the rivalry series and other community initiatives. What else do you feel like you would like to see as part of youth hockey and high school hockey in the Chicago area?
Yeah, I mean, getting ice is hard. I think there's got to be a way to balance it, like we were just saying. That, to me, would be the biggest thing. I was talking to Spencer and say they're playing up near 70 games. That feels a little excessive to me.
Like a pro schedule at that point, yeah.
I think if you could maybe condense the schedule and pare it down and play 30 high school hockey games and every game means something, and then in the fall and the spring you're able to pursue other things or play AAA, I think that would help grow the game. And like Chelios was saying, you would get all those AAA players playing high school as well, so it would raise the competition for everybody. Not that it's not great, it's great, but you know, you want as much participation as possible.
On that note, Chris, you spent the bulk of your career, and 98% of your career in Chicago, Detroit, and Montreal, right? 3 incredible hockey hotbeds. The first question I have is around what was youth hockey like in some of those other markets? I'm sure you had to do some of those initiatives, but ultimately, what made you pick Chicago? You spent more time in Detroit than you did in Chicago. People forget that sometimes. What made you glued to this place, and what were some of those youth hockey scenes like?
Well, Montreal, you didn't have to sell hockey, obviously. That's all they have up in Canada is hockey. But Detroit and Chicago are so similar in that when the Red Wings were doing great or the Blackhawks were doing great, it just carried over to youth hockey. You know, kids were familiarizing with the players, and it was just, especially when the Blackhawks, the 3 Cups, the Tays, the Kane, Seabrook era, when they won, youth hockey just flourished with that, you know. And as a kid, I remember growing up watching in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, the Hawks had great teams. Bobby Hull, Stan Mikita, Tony Esposito, and so on. But couldn't get by Montreal. You know, Montreal was too good at the time. But it's still, that's the reason why I started playing hockey, was because they were so popular. And then in the 90s, we had some great teams in the 90s. I think youth hockey, there's a big boost in youth hockey then. So it really does matter and what the teams do and their, you know, the NHL teams in any city, not just Chicago or Detroit. It dictates, you know, the carryover to youth hockey and kids wanting to get more and more involved.
Hey, Chelly, that's why I started playing.
I was going to say, that's why I started playing,
it was Roenick, it was Belfour. I loved those teams, and that's what really got me into it. And that's what, you know, my dad never played. Like, we had no, like, family history of hockey. It was just, I want to be Chelios and Roenick, and you guys were so entertaining. You were tough. Like, you were, like, to me, like, you guys are the perfect type of hockey players that would play the right way and play through the middle and play mean and
talk about that old school style.
Oh,
hockey.
yeah, it was great.
Well, I've said it 1,000 times. My childhood hero is Dick Butkus, so I wanted to kill everybody. You know, I got to watch him late 60s, and you know, every kid in my neighborhood wanted to be Dick Butkus.
Yep.
Playing that middle linebacker there in the DN for you.
It was amazing how great he was to watch, and that was kind of like, that was the Chicago Bears. The defense, it was all about like Obradovich and Buffon and, you know, the monsters of the Midway. That was every Southside kid. That was the mentality of those kids. They just wanted to play a tough, physical game.
On that note, I couldn't have you two up here without talking a little bit of Blackhawks, right? Obviously, the influence they have. Chief, when we had you on last year, we'd just gotten Bedard. The Blackhawks. By we, the Blackhawks, I should say.
It's we.
Get out of that
it's our
habit.
city.
It's our city.
We're pesky fans like that.
And I said something like, this is the start of an era, and you're like, I can see the era off in the distance, but we're not quite there yet. A year on, as closely as you follow the team, where do you think the team's at?
I think they're much better than last year. It's a full NHL roster. Like, there's nobody out there where you're like, I don't know if he really belongs. So it's better hockey to watch. They look like Richardson is doing better with a real roster. They're still miles off it. I think they probably finished 20 points better in the standings and 20 points away from a playoff spot. That would be my read so far. But it's been better hockey to watch when we can watch it.
Me, on the other hand, I'll stay positive. Like I said,
a little yin and yang up here.
I've been on teams, and one dimension was the Montreal team. We were in 4th place in '86. We ended up winning the Stanley Cup. No expectations. We snuck in the playoffs, and we won the Stanley Cup. But realistically, what you're saying is right. They've made some great signings after last year's performance due to injury or poor play or youth. It wasn't acceptable, and I think Danny Wirtz, the Blackhawks, the whole staff, by the signings they made with Teravainen, Martinez, Bertuzzi, he hasn't, he's got off to a little bit of a slow start, but he's a kid that could help them in the regular season, get in the playoffs. They've shown that they're in this to get in the playoffs and be a competitive team. So, I'm not going to count them out yet from the playoffs because a lot of things can happen, but it's tough. It's a tough division, and we'll see what happens. They're off to a good start, but at the end of the day, you could say we'd play hard. I think Richardson gets the most out of them, but you got to win.
They're a much easier team to root for this year. I'll say that. I feel like they compete, and that's all I really care about. Play hard, play smart, and let the rest figure it out.
So we started this segment. You talked about the guys that you grew up watching. You talked about the guys you grew up watching in the West. You talked about the guys you grew up watching. Obviously, we all know Connor Bedard. That's going to be a guy we're going to watch in this city for several years to come. Who else should Blackhawks fans keep their eyes on that we could be talking about as a part of a championship core over the next 5 years?
I watched a lot of Big Ten last year.
I knew where this was going.
I love that Levshinov. I think Sam Renzel, if you look at the different prospect rankings, he's always a little bit lower, but that boy could skate. So 6'4", skate, offensive tools. I thought he was really good at Minnesota. He's in the right program. You got to have the mobile D with a little bit of offense. So I think that's coming.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I talked about maybe the up front forwards, they lack size. I still don't like that part of it. But in the back end, they're all big now.
Yeah.
And I love Vlasic. He's just
great.
finding himself right now. He's going to be a stud. I compare him, maybe you're too young, you guys, but to a Larry Robinson.
Legend.
Just good at everything. He's going to be, and he'll be great at everything, I think, someday. And as you mentioned, the kid from Michigan State, I can never pronounce his name.
Levshinov.
No, if he turns out to be the player that I think he is, he could be the next. Maybe not Duncan Keith because
we can stretch it there.
But he's got an edge to him. He plays hard. He loves the game. So hopefully he turns out to be that type of player.
He reminds me a little of Charlie McAvoy, Boston.
Yeah, McAvoy, Drew Doughty, kid Letang. He's in that mold of players. So
some bite.
I'll take that all day long.
See, I'm the goalie on the podcast, on the broadcast, so I like Drew Comesso. I know he's down in Rockford. He's got a season a little bit, but I think in 2-3 years he's going to be a great ad.
All right, that would be great. I mean, you said 86. You had a guy named Patrick Waugh pop out. That might have helped a little. Did that help?
And all else failed, you just rely on Patrick.
Right.
Again, and there's more than him. We had like 7 rookies, Lemieux, Richer, guys like McPhee. The chemistry worked out great. They all got called up towards the end of the year. And Patrick was there all year, but he didn't play. He just they decided they're going to go with the rookie in the playoffs, and
here's the
rest was history. Great coaching move, or whoever made that decision to put Patrick in there. But again, it's not always the best team that wins. Playoffs are tough, and I still say it's the hardest trophy to win, the Stanley Cup. 4 rounds, and it's physical, and basically it's survival of the fittest. So 1 or 2 injuries, you don't know matchups, and you could find yourself. I've lost. I've been on the other side of the coin too, where I've been first seeded and lost to the AC team, and that AC team would go to the finals every year. We lost to that AC team.
Or stars.
I'm just always hoping. You have to have hope, and I think the fans here realize, the 10 years in the 2000s when they did not make the playoffs, 99, whatever it was, to 2008. I'll trade 3 Stanley Cups for a 10-year absence all day long. So hopefully that's what we're coming towards.
I think that 10-year drought was right after you left.
Good time to go.
99, you didn't make the playoffs. And then 9 more years ago, but you're welcome.
Right.
I appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to get you out on this. Chris, you already gave us a little bit of what it was like playing high school hockey, growing up in the area. Final thing is we've got close to 50, maybe 60 high school hockey players. Take yourself back to 17 years old, Ryan. I'm going to ask you the same question. If you could tell yourself one thing to go back when you were 17 for these kids out here, what would you tell them?
Again, I'm living proof that anything's possible. Their goal, every high school kid's goal, would be to get to college. If anything, it buys you time to develop. If anything, if you don't make it in hockey, you're always going to have that education and that degree to fall back on. I've always been safe. Like I'm not a gambler, but again, I didn't know it back then. But it's really important that you take it serious, you work hard, and anything can happen. Right place at the right time, the right coach, the right line, the right situation, and all of a sudden you go from being an average player to an above average player, and then you all of a sudden get into the USHL or one of the North American leagues, which every kid in here should be striving for if they're playing high school. And then hopefully by the time they're 19, 20, they're going to get a college scholarship somewhere, or at least extend their careers to attend a college, whether it's Division I or II, doesn't matter. Just get into college.
Yeah, I was a D3 guy, and that's, some people just keep going. They have a 24-year NHL career, but I
26.
26. My apologies. But I would say keep playing. So there are some people who might go play club or go to a school that doesn't have D1. They're not going for hockey. Get on the club team. Just keep playing. It's a great time, and then cherish all like the locker room times and the practices, because practices sometimes can suck and you don't want to be there, but you go forward 10 years and you're like, man, I wish I'd be doing anything to skate bags right now. So, and then that's how you make your buddies. I'm going out with my prep school guys. We got about 12, 13 guys. We're going out playing a tournament in April in Lake Placid. So
wow,
everyone's
awesome.
Spread out all over the country. Kids, they're surgeons, they're business guys, bloggers, podcasters.
What's a blogger? I don't know what that is.
I just write nonsense on the internet. And but we all kept in touch. We're all staying together, and we're going to play together for the first time in 20 years in the Miracle on Ice rink. And so it's just keep playing as long as you can would be my advice.
Well, gentlemen, I can't thank you enough both for being here, supporting high school hockey, all the stuff you do in the community with the Blackhawks as well. Really appreciate you guys coming.
Thank you, and good luck to all the kids. It's awesome.
Barstool Chief, Chris Chelios, thank them so much for being here. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back on the other side, we'll have SHL President Evan Polakidis live for you here from the Barn Hockey Bar on Ogden. Welcome back to the Barn Hockey Bar for the high school hockey kickoff show. We're just getting started. If you're in the area, still got time to get down here and be part of this live show right on Ogden, just about 2 blocks east of the United Center. We're now joined by Evan Polakidis here, the president of the SHL and head coach of Glenbrook North. Evan, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So I want to start first. I always ask you, state of the SHL. Obviously, no new teams this year. That was a big change last year. But where do you see things that stand today? I know AHL is one of those things.
Sure. Well, the competition in the SHL, I think, is unmatched in the state of Illinois right now. At the varsity level, for sure. The JV level is always competitive. And, really bringing in the AHL has brought another dimension into the league, which helps it grow. And actually, we do have a new team with Lake Forest Academy joining the AHL. So we're growing that. And, quite frankly, I would invite any team to think about, coming into this league if you can be competitive. Real happy with the start of the year. So many overtime games already, so many shootout games. If you haven't seen an SHL game, I encourage you to go watch it because it's worth watching. These kids really put out, and they play for the love of the game.
There we go, Max. And the AHL is such a great development piece for the SHL, and as you say, it continues to grow. How has that helped? How's that AHL helped players move on to the SHL, and the SHL becomes such a great league?
Well, and I think the stepping stone, right, to get to the SHL level, it's still, the speed at the SHL level is a little more, bigger bodies, but it allows these kids for a year or two to really step up their game and gain some confidence at speed. And they're a little older than what some of the JV teams are, and I think it's a perfect match for the SHL to grow the SHL to even be more competitive. We're getting more and more kids that were playing Tier 2 to come over, play JV, then play in the AHL and the SHL. Look, the SHL varsity is a huge jump. I mean, you've seen the games. You've seen how physical it is. I had a conversation the other night with one of our AAA players that came over, and I said, hey, what do you think the difference is in the game? And he said, this is way, way more physical. And I would agree. The speed at the AAA level is great, but the physicality in the SHL is, I think, even greater.
So when we talked 8-9 years ago now, I was graduating from college, and you said, hey, we're trying to get this thing off the ground, this SHL Game of the Week. What do you think about broadcasting it? And I told the story on the SHL podcast recently, the Scholastic Sit Down. If you don't follow yet, make sure you follow it. Dylan Ward and Luke Jordan do a great job with it. We started with a podcast mic, my personal work computer, and Jimmy's personal camcorder, literally passing the mic between two guys. If you can reflect back on that journey from then to now from your perspective, we'd love to hear it.
Well, I think there's one element you may or may not know, but before you guys came on, we had a hockey broadcast that was featuring Chet Kopic. I don't know if you realize that. And for 2 years they did that, and they were actually trying to make a lot of money from it, and I don't blame them. But when they said, hey, they're not going to go forward with it, I had to think of something else to keep this going, because I realized how important the broadcasts were, not only for the kids coming in to play the SHL, but kids that want to go play in college. We're getting people, from all over Canada watching the SHL, as you know, because you monitor that. and it helps these kids get to be playing at another level. And so I reached out to you, and you guys did what you could at that time. And the evolution of the league has been just staggering. And it's really, guys, I give you a lot of credit. What Jimmy, you, and yourself has done for the league, it's really hard to put into words, but it matters. It really, really matters.
Yeah, you talk about the exposure. I think one night we had people on from Europe. It might have been Ireland or something of that. But there's also just game film too. You can send to coaches, so
it's awesome.
It's another great
really.
part of the network.
We talk about the players, and that's obviously what we focus on. Say all the time as we get into different discussions about different ideas or different entities try to get involved with the SHL, and they try to steer it in a direction maybe we don't want, right? At the end of the day, it's about the kids. But one thing I think people might not realize is the talent that's come through the SHL network in terms of broadcasters. I took a second just to realize the jumping off point that the SHL network has been for media people. We put it out every single year, help wanted. Just to give you an idea, I wrote a list. People that have broadcast on the SHL network have either currently or went on to work for ESPN 1000, WGN Radio, ESPN, ESPN Plus, NBC Sports, PGA Tour, Fox Sports, FS1, Marquee Network, Apple TV, the ECHL, the AHL, the Big Ten Network, the Big East Network. All
staggering.
have at one point had a broadcast performance on the SHL network.
it's phenomenal, right? You look at that and you talk about exposure. I mean, from a media standpoint, that's a major exposure line.
And it's frankly been one of the recruiting features is get people that are looking for competitive, high-level hockey. They've turned it into film. They've turned it into career growth. It's on the network level. It's on the kids level. And again, I want to take a moment. I think people don't realize, I always mention this at the end of every season. We always do the interview with you at the SHL Championship. I don't think folks realize how much goes into this, not just financially. That's a given, right? We have tens of thousands of dollars of equipment now because of the fundraising efforts. But when we want to do extra games, when we want to broadcast quarterfinals, the answers are yes. And that doesn't just happen because me and Jimmy are fun and Wes has a good time. What has the mentality been for you in the growth of this network? And you've talked about how important it is from a exposure standpoint. But what's been your guiding light in this effort?
Well, in the beginning of the year, I spent a lot of time on a budget. So, that's important. And then reaching out to various people for sponsorship. I try to generate as much sponsorship money as possible. And when you guys ask me for something, you guys never just ask me to do something. It's usually a highlight type of game. And, I think it's important. And all the money, just so everyone realizes, none of the officers, none of the coaches, we don't receive any money at all from the SHL. So whatever money I can go beyond what it takes to run the league goes to the SHL network. And so when we have funds available, we're going to televise. That's just what we're going to do.
And it's really underrated how much we thank you and appreciate the support whenever we reach out for things.
And so with that said, if you're at home and you're watching this and you're like, I would love to see more SHL network broadcasts, that happens with your support. So if you're a local business, a real estate agent, an insurance agent, anybody that's looking for a tax write-off, SHL is a 501(c), so you're fully tax deductible. We are looking for additional sponsors. We just had a couple more come in. There's always room for more. Reach out directly to me at Max Anderson 1456 on Instagram. You can reach out to the SHL Instagram directly. You can reach out to Evan. You can reach out to any coach, and they'll direct them our way. We'll make sure that your sponsorship is well worth it. Speaking of sponsorship, I do have to take a moment to talk about Joel Schneider.
Absolutely.
Joel Schneider, for those of you that don't know, has been the videographer for Glenbrook North Hockey for
so long. he was actually doing video when I was coaching at St. Viator.
So He has been alongside Evan for a long time. He has become an integral part, along with Gerard Boris, who's also here tonight, in setting up so many broadcasts with us. But Joel specifically said, hey, guys, I love what you do. I want to help. And, folks, that beautiful camera that you're looking at us right now, that is not a cheap camera. That is an expensive camera. And I want to give a big thank you to Joel, who donated that camera on behalf of the league. And, folks, out there, if you could give a big round of applause for Joel Schneider and everything he has done for the SHL and Glenbrook North Hockey, I want to give you a second to talk about Joel.
Well, Joel, first of all, loves the game. He loves the community that Glenbrook North is. He just loves to be around those kids. He has provided the moments of their lives that they keep forever. They are so thankful of his efforts. I mean, he travels with us. He goes with us. He doesn't expect anything from us, and he continues to give. I mean, we have been incredibly fortunate to have Joel in our lives. That's as simple as I can put it. I mean, he's part of this family, a big part of this family, and the kids that have graduated still stay in touch with them. And it's just a wonderful thing that he does for these kids.
So if you see Joel at one of our broadcasts, at a Glenbrook North broadcast, be sure to give him a pat on the back, a shake of the hand, integral part of what we do here at the network, and obviously high school hockey in general.
Absolutely.
Final thing I want to leave you with, second year of the high school hockey kickoff. We're continuing to grow. We've got other things in the works that we can't talk about yet. What is your goal for the next 9 months on behalf of the league?
Well, I think we want to see more competitive hockey. We want to see crowds grow. You know, we've had some really, really big crowds this year. Maintaining order at times can be a problem. So if any students are listening, please stay off the glass. We've already had one incident this year, but we encourage. Look, you come to an SHL game, and this isn't to demean any other high school sport. I guarantee you our games are as exciting as any basketball, football, volleyball game that you can go to. And the number of people showing up at games has been extraordinary early in the year.
Well, with that, we will end this segment. But before we do, I will add, Evan personally, for this event, has donated 2 of his Blackhawks tickets to this event. Those 2 tickets are going to our Instagram giveaway winner, which I'm happy to announce is at Sean Yurkov. Oh. Sean, if you're watching, actually, isn't he here?
He might hear.
Isn't
He
here?
might hear. He might be
So
here.
Sean Yurkov, you were randomly drawn. I am assured by our social media director, Dylan Ward, that this was randomly drawn. Coordinate with Evan, and you are the proud owner of 2 Blackhawks tickets this season. Evan,
That's great.
thank you for that
All right.
sponsorship.
Thank you.
All your support,
Yep.
everything
Thank
you do
you.
Thanks, guys.
wouldn't be the same without you. Really appreciate
All right.
it.
Thank
That's
you.
Evan Polakidis. We'll take a quick time out. When we come back, we're going to have the state champs on the show here. Adam Cheris, along with a couple of his players, will join us live from the Barn Hockey Bar here on Ogden. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back to the Barn Hockey Bar here for the high school hockey kickoff show. We're joined by the state champs, Adam Cheris, Connor Herschritt, Michael Pedraja, joining us here tonight. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here again.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
There you go, a little bit closer, guys. You'll get used to this. We'll be interviewing you throughout the season, I'm sure, as wins are already starting to stack up for the New Trier side. Adam, I want to start with you. A year ago when we sat at this table, almost a year ago to the day, you had just taken over New Trier hockey, coming off a state championship, the pressure that comes with taking over that job after decades of Bob Melton before. Where are you now compared to where you felt like you were a year ago?
So we've been through it twice now. This is the 3rd year where, obviously a lot of change happens in our program. Most importantly, what we've been trying to build on is that culture, which we've talked about year after year, of really a brotherhood and getting buy-in from our players, not just amongst one team, amongst all teams, so that they really feel like a brotherhood. They're out there supporting each other, rooting for each other. It's been a great experience. They push each other in the off-season. They push each other at all our tryouts, everything that we do. So, yeah, pressure going into it was big. Obviously, like you said, you're filling some really big footprints there. Bob Melton's a legend, been around forever, the most winning coach in high school history. So our whole thing was, we didn't want to sacrifice winning to have a good culture. And I think what we've done is created a really nice culture that goes along and actually added some winning.
I want to speak to that, folks. I think some people think that New Trier rolls out of bed and wins. I want to make something really, really clear. They obviously have a lot of talent. You guys are talented players. You're a talented coach. They work hard. They practice hard. Who's the first team that got me back the team information sheet? New Trier. Who's the first team that got their headshots for the broadcasts to Jimmy? New Trier. Who's the first guy that confirmed their attendance at this event tonight? New Trier. It's not just championship habits on the ice, both practice and closely related. It's everything you do. On behalf of myself, Wes, Jimmy, everybody at the SHL, it's not just championship habits on the ice, it's everywhere you go.
I appreciate you saying that. That means a lot to us. Obviously, we take things very seriously on the ice. How we handle ourselves off the ice is equally important. Like I said, building a culture, trying to get these guys on a path that leads them to good places. That starts by setting examples in everything we do. We got a board that's really committed to the program and seeing a culture that's really positive, and that's what our club and our community are looking for. So yeah, we definitely try and get things done on the early side.
So I want to start with Connor. You were in and out of the lineup last year. When you were in, you were a contributor, but you weren't an everyday guy. This year, you're a captain, you are a leader, and you are on the front line for this New Trier team. What has that adjustment been like from winning a state championship, maybe not being the focal point, to now, if New Trier's going to win a state championship, Connor Herschert's going to have a lot to do with it?
I don't know. I'm just really grateful.
A little tighter. There you go.
Being out of the lineup last year and maybe not playing every game, I don't know. I just appreciate it a lot more this year, where I'm more consistently playing, getting more minutes. But I don't know. I'm just really grateful.
I'm going to follow up on that. You're not new to the SHL in any regards, principally because you've got a cousin that's been a part of the SHL since you were a little kid, right? Tell us more about that relationship.
Pretty sure he's in the crowd tonight too.
Tell us more about that relationship.
Honestly, he's the reason I play hockey. Him and his dad, Andy. My dad never learned how to skate or anything like that. So growing up, I went to the New Trier Green GBN game at the United Center when I was 7 years old, and that game changed my life. Ever since then, I knew hockey was what I wanted to do, and for that, I'm super grateful. And now that I've made it to Green and I'm playing against my cousin as a coach, it's a lot of fun. And at Thanksgiving dinner, we're arguing, we're bickering. It's a lot of fun.
A little bit more motivation to beat him now, too,
yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
To be very clear, who we're talking about is Ben Stein, assistant coach of GBN, your cousin. You guys obviously grew up together. Brings a whole new element of rivalry probably to the Thanksgiving table as well. Michael, I wanted to ask you, in the SHL network in its current form, when I took over, Jimmy took over, we're going on our 9th year, which puts you guys somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 years old when we started doing this. Did you grow up going to New Trier hockey games? Is this something that you set on? Talk to me about your first memory of a New Trier hockey game.
Pretty much it was just from what I can remember, it was because playing for Winnetka, always at Winnetka Ice Arena, always watching New Trier games after our practices or games is always a special thing. I think most players on the team have played for Winnetka, and have always seen the big green games after. It was always real special to watch them, and just being a big inspiration to play for them later. So pretty much since when I can remember, I always started watching New Trier games.
I think that goes back to culture, too. You've been ingrained in it since you're, 9, 10 years old. It helps you really build on that foundation. We're going to get to north-south here in a minute, but we always love getting to the New Trier Loyola Gold rivalry. So for all of you guys on here, what is it like when that game is on the schedule? You guys are going into practice. You got Gold in, say, 1 or 2 days. What's the atmosphere around the team? What's it like for the coaches? Just speak on that if you can.
I mean, it's everything. We grew up watching that game, and the week before, you can't really sleep. You're you have that game, you know exactly when it is. So you have it circled in your calendar, and it's just something that you look forward to.
Yeah, just even before the game starts, when we're walking around the rink, you'll see the stands start packing, and like Connor said, it's just a game that we grew up watching, and it's such a special game, and it's just we mark it on the calendars, we think about it all year, and it's just really special for the team.
So we got some jokes. The SHL Game of the Week schedule. And in fact,
there you go, Max.
So their mic's a little further away. That should be better. We got some jokes as the schedule was being revealed on the Scholastic sit-down. Where's the New Trier Loyola game? Where's the New Trier Loyola game? Well, it's the last SHL Game of the Week, just the way that the schedule shook out this year. So we will have that end of January. Already had one chapter of that rivalry. Heck of a game. Tell me, guys, talk to me about that game.
Well, I'll just add in real quick. Like the guy said, you get really excited about these games. It starts a few days before the game because, as you can see, they decide that that's when they're going to shave their heads. So it's kind of an ugly week. I know that they get really fired up about that. It's a little bit of a distraction. So our whole thing as a staff is how do we keep them in check? It's gold. It doesn't matter who the better team is in that series for the history of it. Every game is going to be a tight game. That's just the way it goes. They could be at the top, we could be at the bottom, it could be reversed. It's normally a one-goal game. They grew up playing against a lot of these guys or playing with them, so there's a lot of good friendships and a lot of mutual respect for each other. But it is a unique atmosphere. I'm sure you guys look at North-South, you look at Green-Gold, those are just classic rivalries that that are worth it.
It's got a
Some
true
fun.
playoff type feel to it too.
Oh, it does. It does.
Yeah, it's like playoff. It's definitely like the playoffs. I mean, like no matter how good or bad Loyola or New Trier is that year, it's always close. Like no matter what, it's always a good game.
Yeah, like last year, the first game was 5-0. We got just killed that game, and then we just kind of just showed us like no matter how good the team we are or how bad the other team is, or vice versa, it's always going to be a game no matter what. So just like the preparation for these games are really important, and it's just always going to be a tight match.
Last thing for me, guys, and this, I'm going to go kind of down the line. I really want a thought on this from each of you. You've won a state championship. You've won a state championship. You've won a state championship. What keeps you motivated? What keeps you hungry?
Well, I think that once you win one, you win another one that much more. It's almost like a test. For me as a coach, you get a different group every year. My first year, we had a very offensive-minded team. Last year, we had a team that was just physically impossible to play against. This year, we got a blend of everything where it's, offense, defense, goaltending, great depth team. So as a coach goes, you look forward to that challenge of how do we get back to that spot? If you're green, everyone's got a target on you. They're locked in to play you every game. We lose a game, and it's like somebody beat us at the UC. So we relish that. We love that kind of energy. But for us, it's that prep each year to get that team to that level that they can make it to the UC.
For me, it's like playing for the guys next to me. I mean, most of our team aren't returners, haven't won a state championship. So like, I just want them. I want them to know what it feels like. I want to make sure they can do it. And yeah.
Yeah, just pretty much playing for the seniors. Just know it's we dream about these games at the United Center, and it's just a special time. So just why not win?
Well, gentlemen, we appreciate you being out here. You get the focus segment. If you want it again next year, you know what you have to do. Got to go win a state championship. And for everybody out there, if you want this segment, go win a state championship. That's the rules of the game. Adam, Connor, Michael, appreciate you guys coming on, and best of luck. We'll see you throughout the year.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys for everything you do. It's a great job. Love it.
The state champions here on the High School Hockey Kickoff Show. Let's take a short time out. When we come back, we will have the feature that we have tonight about North versus South rivalry. That is coming your way after a short break. Welcome back to the High School Hockey Kickoff Show here. Max Anderson along with some members of a pretty big rivalry that everyone I think knows. We've got Glenbrook North, Glenbrook South friendly sharing a stage. I even made them intertwine where we've got a north, south, and a north. This is a friendly boost the league type of night. After tonight, you guys can go back to hating each other if that's what you want. But actually, that is my first question. How much do you personally know the other team?
I mean, I kind of see like some things on social media. I know Mulvey and Pajerski from freshman year football games or something. Other than that, like, it's a little rocky here and there.
Yeah, kind of the same thing. Social media, and some kids just like growing up, playing against them.
Yeah, I've had a couple teammates on South, so I know a couple of them, but most of them I don't know personally. But it's not like I hate everyone I don't know. It's not like that kind of thing. So.
Do you remember the first North-South game that you ever went to?
Mine was in 2019, I believe. We won like 3-2 in overtime against them. I remember like Sammy Billis played that game, Andrew Rubin played that game, and ever since that I wanted to be in it.
Andrew Rubin, of course, part of the SHL Network family. You hear him on broadcasts with us when he's not at college or playing college baseball, whatever it is that he's doing all the time. Ryan?
Wait, the first one we went to?
Yeah, do you remember your first North-South game?
Yeah, I don't know how long ago, maybe like 2016. It was back when it was the old Glenview Ice Center, and it was just loudest arena I've ever been in, and it was just electric, and I knew I wanted to come to South after that.
Yeah, mine was, I think, 8th grade, and I remember sitting up top, way up at the top of the stands with my Blue Hawks teammates, and it was just like absolutely insane environment. I was at Centennial. I think North lost that game.
So that was going to be my question. Ryan, were you a freshman when South broke the streak? Or was it your brother that was on the team?
Yeah, my brother was on the team.
So it was within the family. What do you remember from that game, and what does your brother talk about that game?
Well, kind of just talked about how he was really excited to beat North, because I don't know how long was it? Do you know?
It was 17 straight years, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
16 or 17 years.
17,
I think it was 17.
yeah.
I think these guys know.
Yeah. Yeah, he was just talking about, it was really surreal moment for him and his team, and that kind of brought it in for the next year that they said we got to start a new streak. So that's pretty much all he talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go to many of the South games that North won, but I remember like coaches talk about all the time, like that streak was like, it was like every year in, year out, that North would be like, yeah, we're winning this game, until they broke the streak like, 4 years back?
So here at the network, social media, we all look forward to North-South every Thanksgiving Eve. It's been, except for the COVID year, this will be the 9th year in a row that we've done it as part of the SHL Network and SHL Game of the Week. Is there another matchup, whether it be because the barn that you play in, maybe specific kids that you like playing against, is there another matchup? I'm not going to say that compares, because I feel like nothing compares, but what's a matchup you would say GBN versus X, and I just really look forward to that?
For me, recently it's been York. So I know my freshman year we played them like 9 times on JV, like in the state championship, SHL championship. And then my sophomore year we played them in SHL playoffs, and every game we have against them is just very chippy, and we go out there to dominate, and they're kind of expecting the same thing.
Ryan?
Yeah, for me, looking back at last year, it was really fun series, especially for us when we got to play New Trier. It was packed barn most of the time. Fun games.
Those games kind of feel like it's like you wake up and you feel like there's a different energy, and I feel like those games for me this past year and the last year were New Trier, especially at North Shore. I feel like there's everyone is going to be there, and it's like the perfect meeting ground, and those are always such fun games, I feel like.
Last thing I have for you guys, and I really appreciate you taking time, and not everybody loves being in front of a microphone the way I do, so I appreciate you guys being good sports about it. I want to give you each a chance to talk about your coaches, because Jimmy Philbin obviously became a Hall of Famer last year. Evan Polakidis one day will be a Hall of Famer here in the state of Illinois. I want you to get a chance to talk about what it's like playing for a current and likely future Hall of Famer.
I mean, I remember my first skate. on varsity, I showed up and Evan stared me down, and it just like I felt like my stomach completely dropped. And as I got to know him more, he's just like the best guy, like to talk to about sports, about like anything you want. He's always there for you, and he's been supporting me since day one. I couldn't appreciate it more.
Ryan, what's Jimmy been like?
Yeah, playing for Jimmy, he's really created an environment for our team to be a family. We have a lot of family dinners, like that he likes to call them family dinners. We have them a lot before Saturday games, usually on Friday nights over at North Branch. I mean, he pays for pretty much everything, all the food, and he creates a family. But he's also just a tough coach. He wants us to work hard. It's just the best coach I've ever played for.
Yeah, and Evan, I feel like any other practice or skate you're at, you're just messing around with your buddies. Like, obviously you're taking stuff serious, you're doing the drills, but like when you get on the ice with Evan, like when you see him roll up in the parking lot in his Porsche, like you know there's like a different energy and there, different expectation of the practice. Like you're going to be there to work, and it's not like coming from a yelling perspective, but he just holds every single person on that ice, including himself, to that expectation that like everything that's there is going to be put out. So,
well, guys, I really appreciate you guys being here, agreeing to come on. Jake Semmelheck, Ryan Mulvey, Michael Raderman, North-South, Thanksgiving Eve, which is the 27th, I believe, this year. Of course, we'll be there at Centennial Ice Arena. It'll be a crazy environment, as it always is. Guys, thanks for taking us inside this rivalry a little bit. Thanks for being here. Look forward to the season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
North-South rivalry panel, thanks for having them on. When we come back, we will have the Captain's Roundtable coming up here. So we'll have a captain from each of the teams in attendance here tonight, and we will take them through some similar things, but a little bit different angle than we've had here so far. So stick with us. We'll take a quick break, get that set up, and come back in just a minute. Welcome back to the Barn Hockey Bar here for one of the featured segments here on the evening, the Captain's Roundtable. We've got a bunch of captains here from right to left. If you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Ryan Capelone, Carmel Catholic Hockey.
James Rice, St. Viator.
Giovanni Senna, Fenwick Friars.
Jimmy Brown, Stevenson.
Matt Klein, Loyola Gold.
Austin Haynes, St. Ignatius.
And Logan Lyons, Glenbrook North.
And I'm your host, Max Anderson. I'll introduce myself as well. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. We've got some fun stuff, some serious stuff, and we'll finish with another fun one. I want to start with a fun one, and this is something I'm always interested in. You're going to say the North-South game. You're going to say, I'm assuming Fenwick, but I don't know. I want to know from each of you, take 10 seconds, 20 seconds, what your favorite matchup, what's the matchup that you look forward to most when you see it on the schedule?
I think it's got to be New Trier or Loyola. I mean, those are the known top teams in the league, and I feel like it always goes back and forth each season, so I feel like it's got to be one of those two.
I'm going to do a different answer than Fenwick because that's kind of the one I was going to go with. But I'm going to go with York because I feel like the last 2 years they've knocked us out of state. So every time we play them, it's pretty heated and it's always a good game.
Mac?
For us, it's probably a pretty obvious answer other than Green. York as well. Going back 2 years, they've beat us both in state. So.
Yeah, they've had pretty incredible runs the last couple of years. Matt Boeing couldn't make it tonight, but shout out, Matt. Thank you for checking in with us, and let's see if he can find a way a third time in a row the United Center.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Yeah, definitely Vider. You know, a lot of history behind it. Always fun to play them. So.
Yeah, so besides Ignatius, I'd say York because a lot of our guys know them, so it's always great and fun to play against those guys too. So.
I would say we get up for North a lot, you know, especially with our games last year. They got pretty heated. And then especially knocking them out of the playoffs last year was a big thing.
Okay.
I think we like playing against Stevenson. A lot of us played together when we were younger, so it's kind of continued rivalry.
All right. So we got a little spray around. We're going to go back reverse order, so we're going to start at the end with Ryan. Favorite rink to play in? Actually, let me qualify it a little bit further. Best ice you get to play on?
Definitely Glenview. GBS has a beautiful rink there. I mean, the ice is so smooth, and yeah.
I'm big on Fifth Third downtown. It's always kind of cool with the Blackhawks there. The ice is always good, so that's a fun one.
I think out in Mount Prospect, the Vider's rink is super nice. Great ice and also great atmosphere overall.
Yeah, I'd also have to go with Mount Prospect. Great ice, and the pizza's also great, so that's a big bonus.
Yeah, I'd second that. Mount Prospect.
I'm going to go with Ridgeland Commons. I think every time I've played there, it's been crazy. I love that rink. For some reason,
It's a great atmosphere. We're doing a game there this year. We have at least one game there this year.
Yeah. I'll probably go Mount Prospect, too. The ice is pretty nice.
Okay. So we're going to go back down that line again, and I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to talk a little bit to give you time to think about it, Logan, because you're going to be the first to answer. You play for Evan Polakidis. We heard from your teammates, everything he means to the program and them and everything. If you couldn't play for Evan, what other SHL coach would you want to play for?
I'd say I'd probably go, I mean, this is a kind of different answer, but probably Jim Philbin for South. I mean, I've known him for a while, and probably just want to play for him.
Why?
Eventually.
Give me a reason.
Just the way he coaches, I feel like I fit the system pretty well, I'd say.
Okay, Austin?
I'm going to go with Scott Sorello at Loyola because he was my coach growing up until maybe like 13 years old, so I just think that'd be cool to reunite with him.
Mac?
Yeah, I'm probably biased here. I love Coach Scott. He's a great coach, but I love to learn New Trier Green strategies and play for Coach Stars.
Be a inside edge, right? You know, do a little Trojan horse. All right, I got you.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that New Trier's coach, just because it seems like they got a big winning atmosphere there, and it's just good culture.
I'm going to have to go with Vider. I feel like they're a really great structured team, and I know a lot of kids on that team as well, so I feel like we have good chemistry.
James?
I think I'd have to go with Fabrini from Fenwick. I just kind of feel like the guys love playing for him. You can kind of tell they want to run through a wall for him, so definitely Fabrini.
I would say the St. Ignatius coach. He's always very welcoming and super nice to me, so that's probably why.
So this is the second year that we've done this kickoff show. We've talked on the podcast, the growth of the network. But show of hands, who here before they got to high school watched the game on the SHL network? Nobody? All right, I probably should have pulled that one before we got on here. That's a producer's mistake. But who went to SHL hockey games before they were in high school?
Oh, yeah.
All right. I want to hear about some of those early memories. What are some of your early memories of going to an SHL game?
I just remember going to all the North-South games, like even before I played. Like I joined GBN last year, but I'd always go to the North-South games. I mean, they'd always be super fun, and just they're always intense with all the fans and stuff. So definitely those for sure.
Whoever else raised their hand, Austin, I don't know if you
I remember I went to I just somehow ended up at a green gold game, and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. So probably that.
Yeah, so when I was a freshman, I went to a green gold game and absolutely loved it.
Yeah, when I was a freshman, we had the big state run, so it was always fun going to those games.
Oh, I wish I went to a game, but I did not. So.
Yeah, I probably should have gone to more SHL games leading up to.
I went to a Viator game once against Carmel, and that was I think we won in overtime, so that was a good game to be at.
All right, last thing I'm going to ask you guys, and I'm going to get you out of here. And for being on, I really appreciate it, guys. Everyone's getting an SHL hat, so I appreciate you guys. SHL hat or shirt, you guys get to pick one or the other. Last thing I want to know, besides the state championship, right, besides North-South, what's a SHL game that sticks out to you that maybe you went in, it was a Tuesday in December, you didn't have any expectations, it was a crazy game. What's a game that sticks out to you in your career?
I feel like definitely like the York games. Like they always try to schedule the games on like Friday nights, like 8 p.m. or something like that. So we always say that
Friday
it's like
nights at Addison, of course.
We always say it's like a trap game. So those ones always go either way. So I feel like those you got to really be prepared for, and just anything happens.
Austin?
I'm gonna say, anytime we play Loyola, it's always super tight, super gritty game.
Catholic school rivalry?
Yeah. Oh, actually, can I say rivalry series like sophomore year?
Yeah.
Yeah, we played Fenwick.
That was probably the most packed arena at Fifth Third West.
Right
was
after
there.
the bus crash, that was a crazy environment. That's probably my favorite.
I'll never forget my first game. It was on SHL Network versus Lake Forest, and we ended up losing my sophomore year.
I remember that one. That was the first, I think, wasn't that Lake Forest's first game in the league? If I
Yeah,
remember?
it was their first ever game.
That's right. It was up at Alumni Fieldhouse.
Yeah, I'd have to go with York as well. I feel like we always get a good turnout for that, and it's always fun playing against them because it's usually a close game. So.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Austin. I feel like that series sophomore year was great, and doing that whole ceremony after that bus crash was really nice, and it was overall a great experience.
James?
I feel like it's kind of a boring answer, but I feel like Green's always one that it always kind of sticks out. And I feel like you played them in December last year. It was packed, so that was a cool atmosphere.
We always get scheduled for senior night games. I don't know why, but we beat GBS, I think, 2 years ago, and that was a good game that I remember.
Well, guys, I really appreciate it. We love doing this because these are the kind of answers that maybe we don't get every day on the SHL Network. But hopefully you folks at home getting to know some of the guys. I know they're behind their helmets and their face masks, but that's why, guys, remember, when you get interviewed after a win, take your helmet off. I feel like I'm always reminding guys of that. Make sure you get that head of lettuce out for the people to see. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on the Captain's Roundtable. When we come back, we will have the coaches panel, the next portion of this evening here tonight. Stay with us. A couple more segments left on the High School Hockey Kickoff Show. Rolling along here on the High School Hockey Kickoff Show, live from the Barn Hockey Bar here on Ogden. Really appreciate you being with us. We've got our coaches panel. We heard from the players. Time to hear from some coaches. And so without further ado, gentlemen, go ahead and introduce yourself. Nick, we'll start with you.
I'm Nick Fabrini, the head coach at Fenwick High School.
Jimmy Philbin, head coach at Glenbrook South.
Spencer Montgomery, head coach at St. Ignatius.
And owner of this lovely establishment. Thank you for having us, Spencer.
Yes.
Chris Benz, assistant coach at St. Viator.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. You've heard from your players. I'm curious, has there been a story or a nugget that you've heard that surprised you out of the players tonight? I know you just, let me start with Jimmy. He's been here. I know you got here a little bit later. Jimmy, let me start with you.
No, I just, I think it was interesting, the players that were talking about North-South game and their experiences in the past and growing up and watching that game, and them waiting and wanting to play in that big rivalry game. It's it's one of the top games of the season for both teams. But it was great to hear the stories of all the captains.
Spence? Just from so far throughout the night, we've had all these different segments. Just something you've heard out of either the players or one of the guests so far tonight that's resonated with you.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the value of high school hockey. Chris Chelio was talking about winning the Kennedy Cup back in the day and what that meant to him. And we've continued to put energy into this Scholastic Hockey League, and credit to these guys who've been in it. And it's just exciting to see the crowd show up and all the excitement leading in. I mean, we're already starting to get a feel for who's going to be a contender and who's not. And the league just continues to get more competitive.
Yeah, along the same lines there, it's just exciting to be a part of it here tonight, and we appreciate that Spence put this on for us, and the boys talking about rivalries and all the good stuff that goes on in the league, and no better place to be tonight than here.
So I have a specific question now for Nick and for Spencer. You guys last year, for the first time, played in the SHL and the CCHL. Doing that again this year, what is that double league like looking back on it? And what do you feel like you learned about your team, maybe practice schedules, anything that you can share that you feel like you're better prepared for now in year two?
It's a lot of hockey. So, I think that we've definitely taken a look at things, like you said, in terms of practices and workouts and trying to make sure that, we have gas left in the tank come January and February when it's important to be playing our
Did you
best
feel
hockey.
like maybe you were running out of gas at the end?
At times, for sure. I mean, it's a long season. Even if you're not playing in 2 weeks, from mid-August or so till mid-March is a long time. So I think fortunately for us, we ended up playing some of our best hockey at the end of the year last year, going all the way to the Kennedy Cup final and losing to these guys in Game 3 after 2 double overtime games.
Crazy series.
So, I think that you learn from those things and try to apply them moving forward to make sure, like I said, that we're playing our best hockey at the most important time.
Spence?
Yeah, I would add, you have to know when to press, and you can't press for 70 games on guys and kind of have. So when are you ascending? When do you need the most out of guys? I had to learn how to pick my spots. The course of the season is a long one, and you only get so much rope with high school athletes on leaning on them. And then the other thing is learning when to inject rest and get away from the rink. I mean, we did like a little flag football, bowling, that kind of stuff, just to take the kind of day in, day out, you're always at the rink. So they're certainly managing the schedule as a part of it.
Chris, 2 years ago, you guys were, or 3 years ago now, you guys were in the state championship, and what was a great run for you all. From then until now, what do you feel like as a program you guys have learned that you can help apply and so far off to a great start to the season?
We just know that it's a long season, and no matter what happens during the regular season, at the end of the day, the playoffs are what counts, and that's really where we want to be playing our best hockey is towards the end of the year.
Similarly, Jimmy, do you look at what York's done the last 2 seasons, kind of, I don't want to say counted out, but underestimated, and then have had explosive, January and Februarys? Do you take anything from that as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, it's we've talked about it already tonight. It's a long season, right? So with our situation this year, we graduated 12 players, so we have a brand new team. So it's a lot of learning in that process, and we've started off pretty well. We're 8-2-2 so far, and we've had close games in the SHL, and it looks like our league is going to be again a top league in the state with everyone playing tight games every night. And I think the season's long, and we just need to make sure we pace ourselves.
Nick, you've been at the helm now. Is this your second season, I believe?
Third
season. Excuse me. Third season. You played a lot of hockey in your life at some high levels. What has it meant to come back and coach specifically high school hockey?
I was really fortunate. I went to Fenwick. I played at Fenwick. We won 2 state championships at Fenwick. So, I think just being able to have the opportunity to come back and try to provide some of those same experiences. Like this Saturday, I was at a wedding with a guy that I played hockey. He's actually a year younger than us. But there were 6 or 7 Fenwick hockey guys there. And some of those guys, even though we haven't talked in years, you pick up right where you left off. So, it's bigger than just hockey and the things that happen on the ice. It's lifelong friendships and relationships and really extended family, that makes it so special.
Jimmy, you hate when I talk about this. You hate when I bring it up, and you're so humble about it every single time. But I do have to ask you, what was that moment like last year to be inducted into the Illinois Hockey Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I don't like talking.
I got to ask you, it's obviously something that is very important to not just you, but the league.
Yeah, it was so surreal getting that call. I was so surprised about it. You don't really realize, what impact you actually have. You're out there coaching. I've been doing it for quite a while. I mean, Chris played on our state championship team, and I was able to coach with him, now competing against him. But the Hall of Fame call was absolutely outstanding, and it goes a long way. It just made you start to realize and appreciate everything that you've put into the game itself or high school hockey, and from 1990 on, it's been a long time, and seeing kids grow up, get married, have kids, and
have you coached some kids of kids you've coached?
We don't need to talk about that right now. It's not talking about the SHL, but it was absolutely a great moment, and I'll never forget that. I'll never forget the speech, giving the speech, having my mom there, and talking about past experiences as a player, and it was unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
Chris, he mentioned you specifically, and I wanted to ask you, you coach with your brother. Now, anybody that has a hockey brother knows what that relationship could be like. My brother didn't play hockey, we were baseball players, but just trying to conceptualize coaching with my brother, I don't know how that would work. What's it like coaching with your brother?
I think Tim and I are a good yin to our yang. We grew up together, obviously. We have the same ethics, morals, kind of values, and standard to what we're trying to do. So, we're always on the same page for the most part. I know what he wants, he knows what I want, and we work well together.
All right, I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to go to Spencer. I'm going to come back so you can think of a good answer. What's something about your brother nobody here knows? But I'll give you a second to think about it. And I'll go to Spencer real quick. Spencer, you were a part of a organization with the Blackhawks for years. You experienced what a championship culture looks like. What did you learn as that experience working with the Blackhawks that you feel like you can impart on your program?
Yeah, I mean, I got access to a lot of the players from those cup runs. One thing that stands out is not getting too high or low, and then always believing that you're in hockey games. And there's a level of competitiveness and preparation that's required to be successful. And so you can't take a night off. I mean, you see that in this league as well, in the NHL. You might lose a game in a series. It's not time to pout, body language, all that stuff. On those Hawks teams, there was a sense of, we're going to get this done. And they had guys with killer instinct that made that happen, but there was a belief from top to bottom of the lineup that success was coming.
So I'm going to bounce back to Chris. I gave you a minute. You had to have thought of something. What's something you can tell us about Tim that nobody knows?
It's more or less a funny story. So when I was playing at Indiana, he was at DePaul, and we got into a little scuffle in front of the net, and I asked him to fight me, and he turned it down.
Wow. Okay.
I'm glad he turned it down, though.
Very topical. I can't wait to follow up with Tim offline. Last thing I have for each of you, and I really do appreciate you guys coming on. What's something in October that happens, and this can come from any past year experience, that you look back, let me rephrase the question. In March, at the end of a season, what's something from October that you looked for, a key mark from your team? What are you looking for now based on past experience to benchmark your team? And Nick's next to me, so if you need a second to think about it, if anybody else has an answer,
Go ahead,
feel
man.
free to jump in.
That's a tough one, man. I think it's kind of going back to what Spencer said. I think it's the way that they're practicing and the way they're preparing and just talking about hockey around the rink. Like, I think that's something that I've seen in my time here that's kind of changed is, the players are starting to talk about the things that we talk about in the locker room and work it on in practice, and they're starting to kind of repeat some of the things that the coaches are saying, right? So that, to me, is sort of a sign that hopefully that they're kind of starting to take over, because once that transition happens, I think that's when you can really start to get somewhere as a team.
Feel free to jump in. Any of the three that have a thought on it?
I can go. I'm looking for the intangibles. I'm looking for the guy. We have 6:15 a.m. practice. I'm looking for the guys who are there at 6 a.m. I'm looking for guys to listen. You have to sacrifice something to have success at the highest level. I mean, he's got a state championship. He won one as a player. It looks a little bit different.
He won 2.
Yeah, you can't. Well, there you go. I'm the odd man out. But you got to give up something to get what you want. And so looking for guys that are organizing team dinners and checking in on some of the younger players and making sure they feel a part of it, so you can start to build a culture. You can't win a championship in October, but I think you can lose it with the culture of the team.
Chris, Jimmy?
Yeah, I agree with Spencer here. I think the big thing in October is to make sure that we're growing and always going in the right direction and making positive strides rather than going backwards.
Well, I think for GBS and our team, and I mentioned it, we had a large turnover, especially in the last 2 years. It's really kids getting to know each other, in practices and games, finding out, what their quirks are, making sure that they come together, as a team. But more importantly for me, and I stress the value on and off the ice as a hockey player and as a student athlete. And that's the most important thing. They'll develop their character. They'll get everything together as the season goes on. But they have to be working together as one unit.
Got it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for bringing out your programs, your players, your parents, supporting the league, supporting the SHL network. You heard the impact it has when we were talking to Evan Pulakidis. We couldn't thank you guys enough for your support, for being out here, and looking forward to a great season.
Oh, thank you, Max. You guys do an awesome job.
Thank you.
Thanks, fellas. Thank you, guys.
SHL Coaches Panel, we'll take a break. When we come back, we're just about done, but we got one more thing left here on the SHL Kickoff, High School Kickoff Show here hosted at the Barn. We'll be right back. All right, well, welcome back to the High School Hockey Kickoff Show. We've got as many players as we could possibly gather around us here for this last segment. Les, first of all, I want to give you a chance. Thank you so much for joining us. What's your biggest takeaway from the evening?
I just love how appreciative the players are of having this network and having this outlet for them to come and hang out with one another and, chirp each other at that too. So it's great to see all these players out here. I'm excited to see them start playing here soon.
Yeah, we've got our first game coming up. I'll talk about that in a second. Like I mentioned when we were talking to Evan Polakidis, if you're interested in getting more involved with the SHL network in terms of working for us, we still have openings behind camera and on camera. So please reach out to the SHL Instagram account. Reach out to any of the coaches. They'll put you in contact with me, and I'll certainly see that if it's something you want to do, we'll try. And frankly, you got the chops because we got more and more competition on the network every year. We'll get you on. Last thing for tonight, I want to thank all of the coaches, all of the players, President Evan Polakidis, down to every coach and every player that joined us, all of these clowns behind us. Jokes aside, these are outstanding young men, and we really appreciate you guys being here. Walked right into that.
Yeah,
one.
I know, right?
But thank them. And, folks, if you like this show, make sure you come out to the rink. Make sure you turn into the SHL Game of the Week, Rivalry Series, Wolves Series. We're still working on additional partnerships, possibly TV partnerships, more coming down the road. Big thank you to Ryan Brendel, Barstool Chief. Big thank you to Chris Chelios for being on the show. Big thank you to all the coaches and players that joined us as well, of course. Wes Anderson, I'm Max Anderson. We will be on the call for the first SHL Game of the Week. That will be this Sunday night, just about, a mile from here? Or how far is Fifth Third from here, guys? Like mile and a half?
Stone's
Not
throw.
even,
Yeah.
right? Well, 6 p.m. Sunday night, we'll have, and I'm really excited about this one, a rematch of GBS and Ignatius. Ignatius has had the better of GBS the last couple of years. So
some bulletin board material right there.
We're gonna I knocked them out of the playoffs a couple of times with the state and the SHL playoffs. So we're gonna have that coming up, first game of the week, and we're gonna get started with those SHL rivalries right off the bat. Sunday night, 6 p.m. right here on the SHL Network YouTube channel. We'll be here live all season long with you. Thank you again for joining us. On behalf of Wes, I'm Max Anderson. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you Sunday night.